Okay, let me just share my screen.
There we go.
Oh, I got it. All right. Just bear with me. Hmm. All right, you can see okay?
Looks good.
All right. Hi, my name is Kirsta. I'm a librarian and the head of the Digital Scholarship Unit at the University of Toronto Scarborough Library. And I'm here today with my colleagues, Natkeeran and Kyle Huynh, and a number of our, I'm going to let Catherine in. And a number of our co-op students from our Emerging Professionals program in the library. We've got John and Tony here today, and Ansh Sharma may not be here, but he contributed a lot to the content of this presentation. We're here today to talk to you about what we've done this summer. So we've been looking a lot at Islandora, and we thought that our work might be of interest to other institutions that are like ours. So the University of Toronto Scarborough, it's the eastern satellite campus of the University of Toronto. We have 14,000 undergraduate students and 240 graduate students-ish. In the unit in the library, there are 4 librarians, including me, wearing the spectrum of hats that you're probably familiar with librarians wearing. And then we have 2 developers, Kyle and Nat, and a systems administrator. And then we have this sort of revolving door of undergraduate and graduate students through the Emerging Professionals program. And the ones that are here today are coming in through the computer science program at UTSC. There's a co-op stream. We've been Islandora users since 2014, and so we have an existing Islandora 7x. So we have multiple Drupal sites sharing a single Fedora 3x repository, and we've made some community contributions. You might be familiar with the oral histories module or the web annotation module, and we've always had a committer in 7, and now Nat is a committer in the newer version of the stack. We don't have a really big collection, only really about 126,000 digital objects, always threatening to grow larger. The diversity is pretty high. So I always say we have small amounts of weird stuff. And that means that we have some complex authoring and display requirements. This also means we've had to think strategically about metadata. We have something that we call the general metadata profile, which is a core set of shared mods fields across the collections, which is then expanded and customized to meet the needs of the individual small special collections. Our archival, our preservation framework relies heavily on the work in 7x as well as on the default Atom zip export from Fedora 3. So Fedora 3 provides that zip of the content, and then we take that and wrap it to make our bags. And then we use Python scripts to validate those bags. So that's kind of where we are right now. So when it came to the new Islandora, I'm just going to call it the new one. So from Claw through 8 through 2.0, we were early adopters, but the architecture was moving really, really quickly. And when Drupal 7 got that end of life extension, we took a breath and we started thinking about really what are our functional requirements, and we had a lot of discussions about that. And that led to this past 3 months in the summer where we've been testing and prototyping and decision making, looking at the great work that's been done in Islandora. And what we're pretty satisfied of at this point is that we can develop what we call a simplified stack, a different flavor of Islandora that provides us with what we need and that we thought might be interesting to other institutions that are similar to ours. Overall, we feel there's so much great work in Islandora, a lot of it can be extended, and we think it can become even more modular and Drupal-y, which helps us a lot and might help you too. So what do we say? What do we mean when we say simplified stack? This is I'm going to count on Nat and Kyle to, if I miss anything key that I should be saying right now, but these are the sort of components, the high level components of what we mean when we say a simplified stack. The big thing that you'll notice right away is that we're not using Carafe, Alpaca, ActiveMQ, Fedora. That stuff is not here. We think that what we've got is a little bit more modular, which enables people to incrementally increase features. So the idea is that you could have Drupal and the Drupal modules, and I'll talk a little bit more about why this is, and you would have something that works pretty well. And then if you can have an image server, that's great. If you can have BlazeGraph, that's great. But I think that a lot of institutions might not necessarily be able to install or maintain that level of overhead. So we think that having a lighter and more modular flavor is useful for those groups. So how are we going to meet our user needs with this? So we took a user-driven approach, and I'm just going to summarize a lot of our functional requirements, but by what we saw as sort of the three main user groups. We have our users, and this is patrons or clients, the Googling masses, the people who come to the site, your Drupal anonymous users, the people who are going to be using the site. And then we have our administrators, which are the librarians, the catalogers, the collection managers, the people who are kind of working in the institution to maintain those collections. And I think faculty partners kind of reside between the users and the administrators role. And then we have our developers and our systems administrators as kind of a third group. So that's how we're organizing the presentation. We have, these were our core needs. This is what we found that Islandora could do out of the box. These were the extra pieces that we added or configuration options that we're providing. So we'll start off with users. So we thought one of the first main things that we know when people come to a site is they want to do basic search and discovery functions, browsing the collections, doing advanced searching, Boolean searching, facets. We have a lot of users. We have a lot of content that's in languages other than English. And so we would like to be able to provide really robust multilingual support. That's important to us. A nice simple search. So that's that Google style search box that needs to be in the front and tells users, you know, put a word here and you will get results. And then, of course, we also have that need that's supported in 7x, which is to have a federated search. So we wanted to be able to have one place where people could go, perform a search, and then see content across all of our collections, across all of the specific exhibit sites. And what we found was browsing collections works great. We can make it work on this stack, no problem. Advanced searching with facets also looks good, works well. Multilingual support, Drupal provides excellent multilingual support, and that's carried through the rest of Islandora. We didn't find so much on the simple search or the federated search front, so I just want to talk a little bit about what we did there. So let's see. What I have here is the URL. This is a site that's public. There's no login for it, but it's just where we've been prototyping a lot of our ideas and getting ready for the next version of our system that we hope to migrate to probably starting early next year. So hopefully, let me know if you can't see this video well, but this is just showing you, we went to our view-driven homepage. We've got the solar views. We have the facets. The facets are working quite well for us. We're able to conduct searches. There are fields for the searches. So here, this is Kyle's recording. He's just searching for golden key, which is one of our menus. And then we click on it. And we found all of that works just as we would expect. The other nice thing about the Drupal integration is that map-based discovery layer that we can get right out of the box. So this is just a sample of our Chinese menu collection. It all has long and lat fields in the mods. And so just using Drupal, we were able to pull that out fairly easily. So we were very happy with that. The thing that was missing is that Dismax query. So if you're familiar with the simple search box, that idea that we could have one box that we would set up and that we would search and it would bring back content no matter where that search term appeared. So what Kyle did is he extended the Islandora Advanced Search module. So now we're supporting an all field, and that all field can also be hijacked to provide a simple search box, and that all works quite well in just a Drupal Solar version of Islandora. So just again, a quick demo. In our test collections, if I search for Scarborough, I'm getting back 6 objects. Scarborough is in the title for some of them. So you can see here, all is just another title in the advanced search. Federated search was more complicated. So this is our desired behavior. So we have 5 sites. They're little colored boxes across the middle of the diagram, and everything is indexing content relevant for its own domain and bringing back that content from a single shared Solr core. Then we have one of our sites, which is a federated search site using this little hat shape, the Ajax Solr search forms. And that brings back content from across all the sites, and it returns full URLs. So the user behavior is you do a search, you find content, you click the link on the search result, or you filter however you want, then you find your search result, you click on it, and it's going to open up the object in another site. So this is what it looks like. This is Kyle's recording from our find site. So this is another one of our test sites. So obviously we wouldn't want to show the entire URL. But we've got 5 sites there, content from 5 sites in the same core. You can see you can navigate search results, and then he's just got facets set up on the bottom. So he's searching for Islandora, and it's going to bring back a result from this is a result from our core site, but it's coming back from this other site, find. So again, it needs a little bit of aliasing for facets, some documentation, but for us, this I think is going to work quite well. We knew also to satisfy the needs of users, we wanted to be able to take advantage of a robust display ecosystem. So this meant having that same large image viewer as well as a book reader or a compound viewer, and we wanted that IIIF integration. We wanted that really strong integration with Drupal views and formatters because we knew that the Drupalier we were, the more we would be open to the manifold options that are available in Drupal for displaying content, just a ton of stuff that's available there to use out of the box. We also knew that based on the content we have now that we needed to port that oral histories functionality, so that captioning functionality, into the new system. And then we're partners on a shirk that requires some text and image annotation work. So we had some of that in 7, but we wanted to extend it, make it better, and have it work in Drupal 9. And then, of course, we wanted stable URLs for end users so that they could cite our content. And we found pretty good support. So we had to do a few little things to get the large image compound viewer to work, to get the integration with Drupal viewers and formatters the way we wanted it, and with the stable URLs. Captioning and oral histories, text image annotation, those are the things that we've been mostly playing with this summer. So to get the large image and compound viewer to work without Fedora just took a couple of small tweaks. It didn't take very much at all. So we think that that's very configurable. It's very possible to have that work as a standalone module. And we also found it was really easy to add like a little affordance for users. So it's not really a big deal, but it's something that I like. I guess this could have been dragged and dropped, but I'm just going into the test Mirador viewer, and we need to get the metadata title to adhere, but I think that I haven't seen a lot of the configurations exposing that option for end users, but as the digital scholarship unit, there's a lot of digital humanities folks that come through, and we think that this is a very good option for them. So this is just, it's loaded the images and it's just working in the player. So the next piece is a bit more complicated. So when it came to integrating with Drupal viewers and formatters, we did come up with another way of doing it, another option that we think is a sort of a non-breaking change. It's just another configuration option for Islandora. So one thing is, as you're probably aware, Islandora reverses the default node media relationship. So by default, Drupal's nodes know about Drupal's media elements. And then in Islandora, that's reversed for a variety of reasons. We would like to support the original way that relationship works. And so we've done that. So we are using the Drupal node media relationship the way it happens in a default Drupal installation. And Nat has done a bunch of work to extend Islandora Workbench so that we can do batch installations and have those relationships be set up properly. We're also using a contributed module called the View Mode Switch module. And then we're moving all of our display stuff to an Islandora display module. Why did we do this? We were looking for a lot more simplified UI. So we don't need to use context. We don't need to use EVA to drive views if we do this. This also means that the content type becomes simpler. So Islandora defaults for us becomes just a plain content type for metadata, which is a lot easier for someone like me to maintain. Overall, this really, for us, streamlines setup and management so that we can make it work with the resources we have. And we benefited from that pretty much immediately. So Tony, who's here on the call, who's been with us this summer on his final co-op term, did a bunch of work with a pre-existing integration with AblePlayer. So AblePlayer is a cross-browser HTML5 native player focusing on accessibility developed at the University of Washington and others. It's a pretty good, robust project. And with a few additional developments by Tony, we were able to get something that, if you're familiar with the oral history module, the functions are there, plus some more. So in the video, the yellow is highlighting the existing queue that things are on. We're in an audio file right now. We can get it to play slower or faster. We can hide that transcript we can hide that transcript viewer underneath. It's set to auto scroll right now, and this is just happening directly on the audio file. And it's going to flip in a second here and show how that looks with a video file, presumably. Yeah, here we go. So here we have one of our animations from the Tamil collections. I'm just scrubbing through the file. There's closed captioning there. I press the button and I can hide the closed caption. Again, I can hide the transcript or display it. There's really a lot of options here, and there's more testing required, but we feel like this is working quite well for us, and this is the path that we're going to take for the next version of oral histories, which we're calling kind of transcribed media, which is a better reflects the way that the oral history module has been used. And it covers the oral history use case, but it allows it to be more focused on accessibility. Other things that we got out of the box with this approach, Nat found this great chart suite viewer. So we have a CSV in the repository. It's just a data chunk. And then this chart suite viewer is just showing the table view and allowing an end user to scroll through the file by default. And you can see there's lots of options here. They don't work with this particular CSV, but we're interested to see what other possible use cases that we could have here working directly from that CSV file. Where are we here? And this one is interesting. So Amy, and I hope Amy's on the call today, she's a co-op student. She's been with us for 1 week. She set up a local Drupal installation. She installed the Drupal content types. And within a week from never having done anything with Drupal before, she actually set this up late in the day yesterday. We said we may as well show it. And it's just the default integration we get with the timeline.js module. So this is operating off of our content. So you can see I'm looking at my little sample from the UTSC Photo Services collection. And then this timeline view is being automatically generated from the Drupal entities. And so that's not a lot of setup time, you know, to go from not understanding Drupal to being able to get something like this working. So a testament to her skill, but I think also the ease with which this can be done. The other one was a bit more complicated. So we need to annotate text and image. So we were able to annotate video and image in 7, but we didn't really use that module heavily for the shirk that we're working on. And then for just general projects, for crowdsourcing, that sort of thing, we want to be able to annotate the text of a page, and then we want to be able to annotate images. And this started with Ansh Sharma. He was one of the co-op students with us last term, and he built some integrations for Recogito.js. And then those were really refined and developed by John Guirgis, who's here today, including integration with Annotation so that we could get image annotation in there. The other thing we can do now is we can bring back related text content and image content so that they can be annotated in the same screen. And that's a use case that we have for the shirk, which is really that you can bring back pages from an archival object, and then you have a metadata document record pertaining to those pages that you can then refine. But you want to keep the archival object whole. So in this case, it's a series of bound fascicles, and the order and appearance of that archival object is important, but they want the ability to be able to say, this document points to these 3 pages, and then do some work annotating and have those annotations stored back where they need to go. This also integrates pretty well with Drupal taxonomies and permissions. So I have another little video. I hope these videos are coming through. I will post the slides as well in case you're interested later. So here I'm just navigating the annotations that John's created that already exist. If I click the add edit annotation button, then it loads back up again. So I'm a user that's going to press Shift, and I know who that is. That's Patricia Lasavita, but in the video, you'll see me briefly forget how to spell her name. But then I'm pretty sure I have it right. So that's the drama, a little extra drama in the video. And we're going to add a tag here I know that she's staff, so I'm adding staff as the tag. One thing I cropped in the video is there is a confirmation bubble that comes up on the bottom and tells you when you're performing annotation functions. So annotation created, annotation deleted. So here we are. This is like our transcript or comparison viewer that we have, and you can see the plain text annotation. And again, I'm going to just enter the annotation function. You can annotate the image or the text, but the video, I'm just annotating the text. So you can see it's a light blue background. That's the affordance that indicates that this is what can be annotated. And I'm going to say that this person here is an elected official. And then I'm going to go into the tags and I'm going to add the staff tag. That's coming up because I added the staff tag to the repository when I made Patricia's annotation. So that's just being added to the taxonomy and is then available. So these are the options that are currently available for configuring it. So you can configure by content type, by vocabulary. You can set up a default tag, and you can control the look and feel. So the color, the thickness, that sort of thing. And one of the first things that John did with this work, and it needs to happen again, but he did an accessibility audit of the software so that we could confirm that we were adhering to, I think, WCAG 2.0 was our target. I might have that number wrong. Okay, so finally, we needed stable URLs, so permanent URIs for the objects. And we actually, this is kind of worthy of a different presentation, but what we did was we developed a standalone PHP-based ARC minting and binding application that gives us URIs. And the reason we did that, we adhere to the Aquifer guidelines for shareable mods, which require a full location URL in the metadata. That full location URL for us is an ARC-based URL. And then in the background, we mint it. So currently it's pointing to our 7 stack. And then when we migrate, we will shift the binding and so that it points to the Drupal object instead. And that for us is a really good solution. And there's lots more to say about it. I can use it. It's got a nice interface. It's on GitHub. Kyle that's here knows more about it. It's publicly available. But we also found that Path Auto makes a lot of URL authoring and updating options possible in Drupal, sufficient to our use cases. So every entity, node, media, and taxonomy, and this is probably a lot of people here already know this, but that was news to me. They all have UUIDs. Most of them have IDs. It's really a very robust identifier system within the database itself. So, and then we can also add IDs to metadata. So we usually have 2 or 3 different types of identifiers, and any of those things via tokens can be used to author a automatic path. And we really like that level of flexibility. So there needs to be a bunch of testing to make sure and see what will work for us. But that level of flexibility, I think, is actually better for us than having something that automatically mints a URI, a really stable, persistent URI that just happens automatically. So we would rather have it work this way because we can have a lot of control over how those URLs appear. Because everybody wants something different. So then we have our data endpoints. So we knew we wanted to have some machine readable endpoints. So we want OAI PMH and then we want Sparkle. It looks like OAI PMH works just right out of the box. We installed it. We put a query. We asked the repository to identify itself. We threw a verb at it and it seemed to behave the way we wanted to. So obviously more testing required, but we're feeling quite confident that we can get OAI PMH right, out of the box pretty much. And then for Sparkle, which is something a little bit different because we don't have Fedora. We are using Islandora's JSON LD module, but we're using a new module called the Triple Store Indexer, which takes the serialized data generated by JSON LD and indexes it into BlazeGraph. So the indexing is controlled and monitored using a Drupal contributed module called Advanced Queue, and then we developed a module called Advanced Queue Runner to let us do that indexing. So here's a little video, and if you are familiar with BlazeGraph and looking at BlazeGraph, there's a namespace here. So this is the demo namespace that I'm in. So Kyle goes to the Triple Store Indexer. He's specified the namespace. We've got the server. There's some authentication options, and he's specified a queue. So I'm just going to stop for a second to make sure that you can see that. I don't know how visible it is, but we have the demo Triple Store queue. It's got no jobs in it right now. So Kyle's going to add a job. So here we go. He's deleting the node in the triple store, and then he's going to index it. So when we refresh this, we can see, and I can see as an end user of the system that it's been indexed, and now he's going to do the query, and I know it's very, very small, but the object has been indexed. So we think that's a good solution. So we've obviously been bleeding into the things that get used by librarians and collection managers in the system, but there are some more specific cases that we covered here. First of all, for a lot of us, metadata is really, really, really important. And we think that the support for Islandora and metadata is really good. So I would argue that Islandora, as it is right now, does support any metadata schema, does allow us to round trip metadata, does allow us to search and replace metadata fields, and does allow us to control metadata fields with vocabularies. The only thing that I hadn't seen yet, or that we hadn't seen yet in our research, is that ability to transform and export the metadata formats. So I'm actually not going to focus on the top 4. I'm happy if anyone else here is a practitioner interested in why I feel this support is sufficient for most use cases, I'd be happy to have that conversation. But for today's presentation, I just wanted to show some of the work, late-breaking work by Nat, using the XML feeds view module. So he's got the XML fields view module here. He's got a view. The view has like a DC and mods expression. So you can see he's just selected that format. And then if you look, I'm just going to pause it here. This is just a template using tokens that shows you, that allows you to control the way that you want that mods record to be structured. There we go. I'm just trying to press play. Here we go. So now he's looking at an object and he's just going to, this could happen via a button, but it's just path-based at the moment. There's our mods. And there's our Dublin core. For us, this is important because we really want to be able to get our records into the LSP, the new catalog, and it's going to require MarkXML to do that. And a lot of systems are still requiring that you provide other formats. And so we wanted to make sure that we would be able to control those formats. It's also possible that we might want to add these formats directly into our bag with the object, and more on that in a minute when we get to bags. For collection management functions, these were some of the collection management functions we knew we wanted. So when we say collection management functions, we mean like the stuff that we could do in 7x, like change membership of a collection, be able to generate derivatives. We really wanted a UI. So we really want to enable collection managers to be able to see what's happening to their collections, which is, again, why Advanced Queue Runner is kind of a game changer for us in Advanced Queue. We also knew that we wanted to curate thumbnails, and we knew that we needed access control similar to 7x. So the ability to hide objects by collection or by media type, or, you know, the same things we could get when we wrote, for example, an XACML policy on a DSID. And this is where some of the decisions we've made complicated things a little bit, and we couldn't use some of the Islandora stuff out of the box. But first of all, I want to say, for those of you who haven't seen it yet, the collections management stuff seems to work really well. This is just a block with a context view, and we know that we can search, we can use bulk operations, and we can perform a lot of functions on the objects by collections. So we're pretty satisfied with that. I'm just checking the time. Okay, we're doing okay. And then here we have Advanced Queue Runner. So this is what we want to do for derivatives. And you've been seeing this a little bit in the interface when we can select options from that drop-down menu. So this is Kyle just showing you the systems paths that you can add and where to find them. So this is the module that he developed. These videos are also available on our YouTube channel as standalone videos without very good titles, but they're there. You can see underneath, we select which queues to run. So here he's selecting a default queue, but there's a blaze graph and a fits queue, and he's selecting the interval in seconds at which it should run. And then you can stop it from the interface as well. Now we use, this is the Drupal contributed module that we found and are using as the key system. So here are the queues that he's already got in the system. And again, this is the thing where you can list the jobs, you can see what succeeded and what failed, you can filter it by date, you can filter it by job type. So this is how it works again with the triple story indexer. So this is anything that we know that we want to put in blaze graph. Shows up here. Again, he's showing the what happens when you add it to the queue. Now this is the fit service. So I don't know if you can see this, it's probably difficult to read, but you get this real-time feedback that it's processing the fits service to be able to generate and extract that fits metadata. So we're just working with these two right now, but we think that this could be adopted for other microservices, including the ones that have already been written. Okay. Now access control. As you know, Drupal has a well-supported, robust permissions and roles systems, but like most of the people I think in the community, we have the challenge of granular permissions for objects and parts of objects of the kind supported in 7x. And we've been working with permission by term and it works, but like sort of works. So we haven't been able to get file level security applied at file level URLs. And, you know, there's been some very valid concerns raised about the scalability of this type of a solution. So there's still question marks here for us. And we're hoping what we're going to be able to do is collaborate on a solution with the rest of the Islandora community that will work for, you know, multiple different flavors of Islandora. There's still question marks here for us. Digital preservation is a big one. And so with everything, we turn to Mark Jordan and the wonderful work that he's been doing, which has been it's very plugins based. It's very extensible, which has been wonderful for us. So here are some of the things. So it's like, you know, what was there we could sort of mostly use, but we had to make some extensions. For technical metadata, that's fits. So we have fits XML already existing in our 7x system. The big change that we're making here is that when we extract it, or if we're migrating from our old fits, we're storing it as JSON as a field on the file and extracting information to index using James path. And that's so that we can have things in the index and generate reports on the files that are in the system. So the module is actually called file entity. And again, it just allows us to place fields on the actual file level. So this is just a diagram of what our repository content will look like. We have our node, we have our fields pertaining to metadata, then we have media entities with the admin and version metadata that is provided by Drupal, and we have 3 media associated with this video object. And then you can see that we have multiple files. So this is building on the sort of innovation at UPEI of adding multiple files to one media. And then our only thing that we're adding there, the only thing we're adding there are these little green things. That's the fits JSON and the indexable fits fields or the indexed fits fields. And we're also assuming that that's how we're going to index the queues in our WebVTT files as well. So let's look a little bit at the configuration options for that. So you can generate the fits on the object, on the file when it's added to the system, or you can do it after it's been added to the system. So we're going into the fits module. You can see there are 2 endpoints here, but we're just going to use the native, the command line fits, selecting an advanced queue, and here extracting fits while the file is being uploaded. So again, we're going to go in and you'll see there are no jobs, and we'll add a job to the system. So Kyle's going to go over and add a file into the system. He's choosing the destination. Now, if I can, I'm going to pause here for just a second. I'm going to pause as soon as I can. So I want to show you something. So here we're going into file types. He's going to edit the audio file type and manage the fields. And when you look at the fields, there are a number of different fields that we've defined that we know that we want from fits. So one of the big ones is we know we want a separate field with a checksum. So when you look here, you can see there, that's a snippet of James path. So here, this fits blob is a giant blob of JSON generated from the fits XML. And he's going over to the James path site. He's provided the link right into in the help text there. Now you can see this is kind of in like a reserved syntax, this little piece of James path in the helps text. So we copy that. Put in the expression, and the point here is just to show you that when we run that James path, we're going to extract the MD5 checksum. There it is. So that's the mechanism by which we take the big blob of fits and then separate it out into these fields, which are then indexed and can be retrieved in views and things like that. And of course, we need the checksum for our fixity monitoring. Again, we look to Mark Jordan and to Islandora RipRap to do that for us. We did have to refine the integration, the Drupal-based integration a little bit. We're supporting a filterable view of failed events, and we're doing some file level checksum monitoring. And that work has been done again by Tony, who's here today. So I'll show the little video. This is just something from Nat. It's just showing there's a view. So these are all the options if you're familiar with Mark's excellent work here. These are the configuration options, and we are utilizing the one where we're using Drupal and not Fedora. We're going to go to the view. And here you can see green is passed, orange is failed. And then based on that, we think we can get a CSV that's going to export just the ones that have failed so that you could later process them. And I also think that it would be great to have some of this data go into the OCFL object, so into our bag. So that all works as advertised in this later version of Islandora. Generating bags, again, we can use Islandora Bagger. And we're making a bag, but then we turn the bag into an OCFL object and we validate the OCFL object and we put all the versions into the object. So this is John working on his local. Again, I hope you can see these videos. But what he's doing is he's just showing right now that there are revisions at the node level for this particular object. And then he's going to look at the media components just to show you that there are versions for the media as well. So now running it on the command line, he's showing you the config file right now and is highlighting here there's a suite of plugins that we've developed for Bagger so that this will work. He's going to run this and he's created the bag. So that's the bag that comes right out of Drupal. So he's just showing on the right the structure of the bag. So it's named based on the URI of the node. And then we just added some labels to make it a little clearer what we're looking at, the media and the file. And the version information is there. But then what he's done is he's also structured that immediately. He's using the Python validator for the OCFL object, and that's the OCFL object. And then it's structured the way you expect that to be structured. So again, you can kind of see right down from the content, the node, right down to the file level. And we might put this in Fedora, but that's would be a later stage thing for us. So what benefits do we think this has? What are the features that we sort of feel like we're providing for developers and systems administrators, and what's important to them? One of the big things that we think we're offering is the simplified stack. So we're getting rid of Java altogether. By supporting storage options in Drupal. So right now we're anticipating that we can support all of the Drupal storage options, but we have to do a lot of testing and decide what's best for us. The other thing that we think we're offering is that idea that you can do it on an as-needed basis. You can implement components incrementally. So again, this helps you if you're not a big shop or you don't have a lot of resources and you can't have an image server, you can't have BlazeGraph, then you don't have those. But then if you can add them in later, then you can put them on. And then Nat's been working on a playbook for this as well, so that people should be able, we need it for ourselves anyways, so that playbook will be available for other people who want to take it down and look at our configurations and the views that we've built and see whether or not there's something there that they find useful. The other big question for us was migration, but we think we have a path for what we want to do. So this is just showing, this is Nat, he's looking at our Jupyter hub. We've got a Jupyter notebook here. They're just Python scripts. John worked on this as well. And we're taking that Atom zip that we get in 7x and that we have as a bag, and then we're just going to script breaking it up and creating the Islandora Workbench ready CSVs, which Nat is now showing on the screen just in Google Sheets. And that eventually, this is what we did to get the content that we have now on our test site into the test site, is we took the bags, broke them up, and then made the content, and the content came through. So this is likely what we're going to be doing for all of our content. We took our stub list of issues, so other things that we're looking at or trying to figure out, and we moved those over to a Islandora Lite project at our GitHub repository in case people are interested in seeing what we're doing and watching it as it develops. We intend to flesh those out in the coming weeks, again, targeting our minimum viable platform for early next year. We're also trying to develop some documentation there, pointing to the documentation that already exists, and then just adding more information about the tweaks that we've made to work. And again, there's a link here to the playbook. So I'm going to stop there. That's kind of the brief overview of what we've done this summer, and see if there are any questions that me or Nat or Kyle can answer. Thank you for listening.